Welcome to Hot Take Thursday, where we're saying what we can't say from our therapy couches. We're always asking you how you really feel. Now it's our turn. Today, we're getting real about going no contact. Hello, Andrea.
Hello, Jessica.
How you doing?
I'm okay. I have a confession that I need to make right now.
Oh.
So if you've been listening to the show for any amount of time, you know that, we record more than one of these in a day. And Jessica loves to give me shit because I want to change my shirt in between recordings so that it looks distinct, which is what I want. And so I was hopping up to change my shirt, and I have an office with lots of windows that's downtown of this little, town that we're in. And usually I am, I pull the curtain, I duck down, and I just change really carefully. I don't know what happened. I think maybe we were a little bit too exposed in our last episode, but I was just fuck it. I'm just standing in the middle of my office, just taking off my shirt.
Just throwing it? Did you get any peepers?
Probably.
Yeah, girl.
Tons. I think I just got a whole lot more popular.
Yeah, you got some new clients.
Yeah, except that I didn't because my bras are very functional. There's no intrigue here.
There's
imagine
no lace, no lacy.
No, it's a nude colored grandma bra. And I'm yeah, have at it, Glen Ellen. What's up now? Wearing my granny bra.
Oh my God, you're going to have people outside with binoculars next week.
Sure will. I'm actually across the street from a fire station. Not that I think that we've hit it off with the volunteer fire community, but if we did, they'd be a peeping just to see what's going on.
How you doing down there? You want a little show?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You're welcome. The world.
You're welcome. You are welcome. Are you ready? Are you ready for this week's question?
I am ready. I think we should mention what we talked about on Tuesday.
Why would we do that? They listened to it.
You're right. Because everyone listening today is subscribed to the show. If you're not, you should do that now.
Yes.
But if you have not listened, you should go back. This was one of the most kind of emotional and personal episodes that we've ever done. So we were talking about the concept, and makes me barf to say it, the trend of going no contact with family members and what we honestly think about it. So I know we'll get into that now, but if you haven't listened, go back, listen to Tuesday's episode.
All right. So here is this week's question. You ready?
Maybe. Feel ready. I'm wearing my fresh shirt. So yes, the answer
with
is
your
yes.
Nude functional bra underneath.
Yeah, I'm ready. Bring it on. Girl. I can handle anything.
Let's do it. Okay. Dear Honest Women, my sister is 7 years older than me, and I'm struggling to have a relationship with her. Being 7 years older, she has always been like a third parent. But I don't need a parent. I need a sister. We also disagree when it comes to family relationships. Her therapist recommended she cut off our mom, and I think that's way too extreme. How can we have a relationship with such different opinions on not just family, but in life in general?
I'm so glad this question was asked. You know why? There was so much to cover in last week's episode, so much to cover from Tuesday's episode. I realized when we were done that we did not talk about this additional consequence of going no contact, which is if you choose to go no contact with a family member and you have a sibling, it impacts them. It impacts them. This is actually a topic that comes up pretty frequently in my practice.
This is a good question. And also I was reading it and I'm like, that's wild because my sister's 7 years older, but it's not me. I'm not the person. It actually was not me. But I immediately understand though that notion of your older sibling who's 7 years older always being like a third parent. I connected with that right away. And shifting that and getting your older sibling to treat you like an equal and not like a little, like their child. It's been hard. And I will say that now at 41 and my sister's 48, we've totally shifted it. But it's a hard one. I mean, that dynamic in general is a really hard one. And so I just want to call that out first because it's also the younger sibling trying to tell the older sibling right now that what she's doing is too extreme,
Yep.
and the older sibling is acting like a parent, and so it's messy.
You're
It's
right, saying
messy.
my way or the highway.
Totally.
I know that you know this, but I've got a lot of BSE, big sister energy, because I am, in fact, 20 months older than my sister.
20
And
months, hey now.
yeah, because I was a parentified and adultified child, I really
Yeah.
did take on that role, which means that forever, I believe that I am in charge. And
Yeah.
this actually, as we've kind of gone in and out of, I've had some low contact with family members, I've had no contact. This was a key issue is how do I remain in contact with you, sister,
Mhm.
if you're in contact with someone I'm not in contact with? I, I felt at times betrayed.
Mm.
I felt at times like she didn't have my back. Um, it felt a little bit like she was weakening our stance. Meanwhile, she hadn't taken that stance. And it was really hard. And so I think but it was a lot of growing that I had to do. That was my job to grow, to
Mhm.
be able to say, look, I have to let my sister have her own opinions, have her own thoughts. I can't let this come between us. But practically speaking, it was complicated, you know?
It is so complicated. I also think as we're talking through it, there's a selfishness to it, truly, in my opinion, for the sibling who's going no contact because it puts the other, yeah. So I'm gonna play the little sister role here, right?
Mhm.
Is because as a youngest sibling, sometimes you play peacekeeper, right?
Mhm.
So when you have a sibling who goes no contact, well, you're kind of in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Right. So then you have one parent, the parent, mom, like asking you about sister. And I mean, it's not that's why this whole no contact has such ripple effects. And
Mhm.
it really can be very selfish because you're putting your siblings in a really bad position or you
Yes. I will acknowledge this, and two things are true. So again, I didn't think we were gonna get into big sister, little sister here, but I will say that sometimes I would feel jealous or resentful
Mhm.
of the fact that my sister, I felt like she had options that I didn't have because I was the buffer between her and what was going on in the parental realm. And I felt like
Ah.
it was on my back that she was able to have a relationship with people that I was cut off from because she didn't experience what I experienced because I was in the middle. And so, again,
Mm.
it's really,
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
is fucking
Oh,
complicated.
so complicated.
And I think what we're highlighting is that the decision to cut off a parent doesn't just impact the relationship with the parent, it impacts relationships with your siblings. You've hinted at this. I don't want to run past it. But if you choose to cut off a parent and you have a sibling, or if you choose to go low contact with a parent, your sibling is responsible for your parents, as they age. This comes up rather frequently in my practice.
Absolutely. Well, and that can be hard too when it's just by location, right? I've
Yes, yes.
totally done that. I moved away from my family, right? And so
Mhm.
it does. It puts a lot of pressure on the sibling.
Again, this issue then becomes, okay, you might not want to talk to mom, but when you choose not to talk to mom, and I have to be the point person for every call from the nursing home, or I have to be the person who drives, because I'm closer than you are to every doctor's appointment. It strains the relationship. And I think sometimes people want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to say,
Mhm.
well, I don't have to have anything to do with mom. I don't have to have anything to do with her care. She's a narcissist.
Oh gosh.
My therapist, my internet therapist told me she's a narcissist. Everyone's a narcissist. And if she's a narcissist, I must cut her off and I'm entitled to. So I don't have to have anything to do with her care. but you can't be mad at me. Yes,
Yeah,
I
that's,
can.
like, not okay.
No.
Like,
Nope.
there's such a sense of entitlement with that whole stance, and that's where I see people saying, "Well, I'm drawing a boundary." No, you're actually not. That is
Right.
not a boundary. You are essentially telling people what, like, they have to do now, right? And
Mhm.
that is not a boundary, period,
Right.
end of subject.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's fair to say, as you make these decisions to be in contact or not in contact with a family member, you really need to take a global look. Like maybe it would be best for you to have no contact ever again with a parent. Is it possible that for the global look at your life that includes other people, you might say, I'm going to have extremely limited contact. I choose not to spend my free time with this person, but I will suck it up occasionally so that I can support
Mhm,
my
mhm,
sister who I want to maintain a good relationship with.
mhm,
You know,
mhm.
I will suck that up occasionally. I will, have very low contact. And, what if that was a different option?
Well, and at the end of the day, she's not gonna be able to talk her sister into anything if she's not asking questions, right?
Hmm.
As in the older sibling, if she's not asking her advice or her opinion on anything, she's not gonna hear you anyway. So part
Hmm.
of it is it's not that you don't speak up or state what you're thinking and feeling, just know that it might not be heard
Hmm.
by by the individual. However, that does not mean that you have to accept things as is. I think you get to if sister's going to go no contact with mom, well then you get to make a decision on how you want to manage that as
Right.
well, where it can be like, listen, if you're no contact with mom, I think is ridiculous. I don't agree with it. I'm not talking to you about it. We can talk
Hmm.
about these things. Here's all the things we can talk about. But
Right.
this is not, I don't agree with it. And therefore, let's just not talk about it. And put it
Right.
right up there with all the other hot topics out there.
Right. Yeah. And the reverse can be true. If I decide to go no contact with a family member, because again, there are instances where this is 100% appropriate. It is a hard, decided issue where like, it is not okay for me to be in contact with someone. Just because your sister wants to be doesn't mean you have to be. And
Correct.
just because your sister wants to talk about it doesn't mean you have to talk about it. You know, I guess the whole point here is that there's just ripple effects of this decision that when you think about it simply, you can't really start to understand.
hmm I'm going to say one more thing. And that is with this particular question on having just different opinions and just ways in which you do stuff. I see so many people just dig in and defend. Like,
Mhm.
don't engage. I think there's something to be said about being able to just say, okay, thanks, and move on. Right. I
Mhm.
see siblings do this all the time where they dig in their heels and they defend what they think or what they feel or why they're doing. And it's like couples therapy, right? Like you're not hearing each other right
Mhm.
now. You don't have to defend. If you have
Mhm.
a different thought or opinion, you can
Mhm.
just move on. Thanks
Right.
for your opinion. Let's move
Right.
on.
And it's actually really important that you're not trying to convince each other because, like I just hinted
Absolutely.
at, two or three or four or five, 10 people in the same family can have totally, totally different experiences with their parents and really with any event that happened. And so you might have experienced abuse in a home where your sibling didn't.
Mhm.
And nobody gets to convince anybody else like you did or didn't experience abuse. But again, watch the words we use, because is everything
Well,
abuse? Is it
exactly.
all abuse? Is it all trauma?
I think you're
I
abusing me now.
I
I'm being
I
abused.
I
I'm not making light of it. Please, no, I'm not making light of it. But here's the thing with trauma. Let me just say this really quickly is it's not about the content. It's about how our
Mhm.
brain stores it. So
Mhm.
one thing can happen to you and the same thing can happen to me. My body could store it as a trauma and yours could not even remember. And that's where this whole notion of challenging somebody's reality is so irrelevant sometimes because it's their experience of it. So you and I can go through the exact same experience and remember it different. They're both valid. That's where I see people get caught in trying to convince the other person that their reality isn't as they thought it was. It's irrelevant. It's how our
Mhm.
bodies and minds store it.
Mhm. Yeah. And as a therapist who works with people to understand their reality better, maybe this is just a word to the therapist. Watch out the words you use.
Mhm.
You don't need to go around telling
No.
everybody that that was a trauma or that
No.
that was abuse. Sometimes you do have to help people be like, yeah, the word I would use for that is abuse, because on the other side, people grew up normalizing all sorts of things that should not ever be normalized. But all I'm trying to say is like, oh my gosh, it's really loaded, really complicated. The words we use matter. Listening and understanding each other's matters. The decisions that we make go so far beyond what we might think is right in the moment. Seek wise counsel. Be conscientious. Lean into relationships that are healthy. Know it might still be messy.
We are answering questions like this every single week, you guys. So if you have a burning question and you want our honest thoughts and opinions on it, send it to us. You can email us. Our email is in the show notes. You can DM us on social media. You can ask it in our Facebook group. But we want to hear from you. And your question just might be one we use in our next hot take. Another reminder to make sure you have subscribed to the show so you do not miss out, especially if we end up answering your question.
And we want to know what you think. We've been sharing our thoughts and opinions. We get it right? Do we get it wrong? Did we make no sense? Because we acknowledge that it's complicated? Let us know your hot take on our hot take.